Spoiler alert for the films in the following podcast.
Hello, I am Dan.
And I'm Max.
And this is Fightography. Now, I think I'm going to take this on a little bit of a scenic tour first, a little sort of backwards way of going into it.
Okay.
Because I'm going to open this week with a question. And that question is, what do we think of the Disney Plus Marvel shows? And now you may already be able to figure out who it's going to be from this, but if not, then you'll soon discover. But
What do you think of the Disney Plus Marvel shows?
Yeah.
I think Loki was the only one that was really that interesting. WandaVision was sort of killed by the fan speculation, which was ultimately more interesting than the show. Falcon and the Winter Soldier had like an interesting episode and an interesting cohort of characters, but then sort of shat the bed with that. And the other one, I can't remember. I remember there being 4, and I can't remember the other one, which is quite telling. Oh, Hawkeye.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel that's a pretty fair, frank assessment of the entire situation. Yeah, I think WandaVision I had so much hope for, and it seemed like the ideal way to sort of be like, right, we've had the Infinity Saga, that was great, but, everyone knows the formula now, we're going to switch it up a bit, we're going to make something sort of really new and out there, and WandaVision seemed like it was going to do that. And for like the first half of the series-ish, I think it sort of more or less did. And then it sort of shat the bed in the second half by sort of bowing down to the sort of more conventional Marvel stuff, which, it works, but it's just a disappointment after the sort of promise of something a bit more different. And then
I wonder if they'll ever bring back White Vision. I don't think they will.
He's got to rock up at some point, surely. There'll be some Avengers film where he shows up. Because I'd say, why would you bring him back? Maybe he'll show up in some capacity in Multiverse of Madness. Since Wanda's in that, maybe there'll be a thing.
Maybe.
And then Falcon Winter Soldier, that was like straight back to MCU formula. And yeah, I mean, it was sort of fun to watch. It's a sort of standard sort of like Winter Soldier-esque series, but then it commits a cardinal sin, which I'm sure we'll probably talk about in like a trope episode or something, with the villain. I hate what they do with the whole, she's actually basically right, this villain, but she's the villain, so she's going to have to blow up a hospital full of orphans or something to make sure she's evil.
It wasn't very well fleshed out or very well realised.
No, it wasn't like a fall or anything. It was just a sudden, I have to be evil. Blow up that hospital, everyone. I am the bad guy. Which I hate that. I hate it. Loki, yeah, good. Sort of like a bit like Loki. Doctor Who, which was quite fun. Doctor Who with like a huge budget. Yeah, good stuff.
And that's why we're doing Tom Hanks this week.
Tom Hanks?
Well, yeah,
wrong Tom.
He's famous for his MCU. Oh.
Did you mean Tom Hiddleston, or did you genuinely think...
No, I was making a joke that we're sort of talking about the MCU for no reason. And
then Hawkeye. The last one was fun. Kingpin got done dirty. That's it. That's our Hawkeye review. But the reason we've been talking about these Disney Plus shows is because a new one is on the horizon. No, Tom Hiddleston is not this week's. No,
Tom, which other fucking Tom is there?
Oh no, I was just saying, as in I thought you had the wrong Tom. That was like a clue.
Because we've done Holland. Tom Holland 2.
Tom Hollander.
Suck it, MCU hater.
The sequel.
Oh yeah. Tom Hollander, I think.
What have I seen him in? I've also seen him in some stuff, but I genuinely can't remember him.
If it's the guy I'm thinking of, then he's been in some very good stuff. Bear with me.
But is he as good as Tom Hollandist? The best of the Tom Holland?
Yeah, no, it is him. So he was he's the guy in Pirates of the Caribbean.
Which one?
It's just good business, if you remember that line. The sort of kind of evil colonial guy.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I like him.
He was also in The Loop Malcolm Tucker. Apparently he's in
Ooh.
Venom Let There Be Carnage, but I don't really remember him.
Is he?
Apparently.
Oh, I better guess he probably must be, but I can't really remember him. Maybe he's like one of the Ravers or
something. He's a good traditional English actor. He like has loads of bit parts and kind of like really famous roles, but I like him.
Yeah.
Always solid. Anyway.
But yes, the reason we've been talking about these Disney Plus shows is because a new one is on the horizon. A new Marvel legend is about to begin to take the Morbius line. Coming out next week, I do believe.
Oh.
A certain...
Oh.
You've got it.
We're doing it.
He's not Batman, everyone. He's Mr. Moon Knight. Oscar Isaac is this week's Fightography.
I thought we were doing Jared Leto.
No. God, no. Maybe if we have to watch Morbius, but no. This week we are doing someone I like a lot more than Jared Leto, because I actually like them for a start. Oscar Isaac is this week's Fightography, star of the upcoming Moon Knight. So we're going to get that Marvel traction, we hope. Yeah, what do you think of Oscar
really
Isaac?
Pandered to MCU this series.
I think we've had a fair split. We had sort of fortnight of Batman content with Arbats and Catvits. Zoe Catvits.
Oscar Isaac, what do I think of him? I didn't like Poe as a character. I don't know if I've got opinions about him. I only have opinions of his characters, really. He's
been in quite a lot. And like it's a fun broad range of powers for characters this week, which is nice.
I think he's, I don't know, it's interesting. He's yet to sell. I don't know. He's good in Ex Machina, but I haven't seen that in so long. I think he has all the talent and ability to make a really good sort of to give a really few like really solid performances. But I feel so far, because a lot of all the properties he's sort of been in is sort of Marvel and Star Wars.
Yeah.
He's yet to really flutter his acting chops, so to speak. So he's only really had roles where he's been caked in makeup, saying very kind of average lines. But I'm interested in him, and I think he's a very likeable presence on screen. I think he's very enjoyable to watch. So yeah, I guess that's my opinion on it. I guess jury's still out, I suppose.
Fair enough. It's interesting having seen some of his roles, because he has done some pretty good films outside of, you mentioned Ex Machina and a certain Sand Planet. He was also the star of that film. A certain...
Oh, yeah. He's in that.
Dune.
Yeah, what a forgettable performance. Literally. I forgot it. I forgot it was a performance. By definition. Very true.
I'm sure we'll get there.
This is going to be such a passive-aggressive episode of us liking and hating each other's opinions.
Yeah. So Oscar Isaac, I think he's really good. I really like him. He's a very charismatic actor, I think. He's always charming to watch, even if he's in a not great film. Yeah, I think he's, especially having watched a selection of films, he's
definitely the highlight of bad films, I guess.
Yeah.
I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, even in Rise of Skywalker, he's still sort of fun. And he's always very charismatic and just entertaining. I do like seeing a bit of Oscar Isaac. Yeah, I'm looking forward to Moon Knight. I'm very excited because the comic series is super interesting, and obviously I like Oscar Isaac, so hopefully it is good. And he is, of course, our first gladiator for this week, Mr. Moon Knight.
Oh, okay, cool.
One of our sort of speculative upcoming characters, but there's a comic run you can base him off, so we sort of know his deal. Do you know much about Moon Knight, Max?
I know basically the trailers.
Okay.
And that he spends his waking life.
Yeah, that British accent threw me in the first trailer. Like, the more I've heard it, the more I'm like, okay, I'm sort of used to it. But when I first heard it, I was like, oh no, what are you doing, Oscar? That's a choice. Yeah, so the thing with Moon Knight, I want to talk about him, but I don't want to give too much away for the series, because I'll try and sum him up in a non-giveaway way.
Okay.
What people generally say when they first talk about Moon Knight, and I think it's a mistake because it does a disservice to both characters, they go, oh, he's basically Marvel's Batman. To which I go, I mean, there's a surface level similarity in that they're both dressed like things out of the night, and they chuck pointy versions of their logo at people like a calling card. But Moon Knight, he's got so many more extra layers to him, and so is Batman, which differentiate themselves. Basically, Moon Knight, Mark Spector, he is a former mercenary who, on a job went wrong, was left to die in Egypt, and was brought back to life in front of the statue of Khonshu, which is the Egyptian moon god. And he was charged basically with being like Khonshu's sort of fist on Earth, where he's watches out for the travellers at night and keeps the innocent safe. And that's basically, he's a vigilante charged by God with keeping people safe.
So Batman meets Ghost Rider.
Yeah, I guess. But then that's like, over the years, they sort of refined Moon Knight to be even more interesting, because originally he had like multiple disguises he would use to like sort of help him. Like, he had a taxi driver persona called Jake, who was like, oh, I'm gonna like make contacts on the street, sort of like Sherlock's homeless network. And then he also had Stephen Knight, although he's renamed Stephen Grant in some runs, where he's the sort of rich, wealthy one who hangs out at all the galas and meets all these fancy people. And then obviously Moon Knight himself as a vigilante persona. They're originally just like disguises, but over the years they've been refined into alternate personalities. He's now got DID, dissociative identity disorder. So these different disguises are actually full-blown personas, which I think is super interesting. And then basically Mark Spector just is very fucked up mentally. He's very mentally unwell, and he's got a lot to deal with. And so that makes it super interesting, because when Moon Knight is at his best, like the comic run I'm currently reading, and what I hope the show does, if they're doing well, they lead into the ambiguity around him and the sort of uncertainness, because like, some runs like the one I'm reading sort of play with, is Khonshu even real? Has he just hallucinated that entire thing? Is he just like a guy who just wants to beat up bad people and has imagined him, this whole Khonshu thing? Or is Khonshu genuinely real and has, there's a suggestion that Khonshu sort of inhabiting him has like given him DID in a way. And there's a whole bunch of ambiguity basically over, how much of what he does is real, how much of it is imagined, and that is super interesting. So I hope the show does that. And they have bits of it, like you said in the trailer, that line, I can't tell my waking life from my dreams. So I hope they lead into that and sort of, because obviously the MCU is a world where gods and shit are real, but I think it could still have the ambiguity where, like, maybe Mark Spector has seen these gods and has like, that's played into his own mental illness, and he's sort of started imagining his own sort of way to be part of that world. So I hope they lead into the vagueness, although it's probably going to be, oh yeah, they're all legit by the end of the series, which, as long as they have the vagueness first, sure. But yeah, so super interesting character basically, and I hope they do him well. The tone should be more like Daredevil. I don't know if it will be. Some of the posters and some of the trailers make me think maybe, but then other clips and other posters make me think maybe not. So we'll see. But
well, I remember you saying that you wanted it to be sort of more violent and more sort of adult themed, and people were getting very excited about that idea. But when I've seen the trailers and it's him jumping over the Disney logo, it's him sort of punching people, not really inflicting much damage, which I feel would incite such brutal violence. I don't know. I think just I don't really see, from what the trailers have given us, and my opinion literally just extends from what I've seen in the trailers, I don't really see it being that adult-based. I still see it being very sort of Marvel in tone. So I don't know if that will disappoint people or not, but I think it's quite clear that's where it's going to go.
I have a feeling you're probably right with the tone, and I hope like they get the tone right, but we'll see. Maybe they find a way to balance it somewhere in the middle, which okay, but yeah. Like he does so much fucked up stuff in the comics, like, you know, there's one bit where he cuts off a guy's face who was like one of his old nemesis, and then he like keeps it in his bathroom and occasionally wears it to like try and get behind the eyes of his enemy and shit like that.
Yeah, I don't think you're getting that.
Probably not. But I mean, that's not like, you know, stuff like that isn't necessity, but sort of just to get the tone of the whole mental health struggle and all that, and like the violence that Moon Knight has, because, you know, he sort of gives into extreme brutality as Moon Knight. You know, to get all that stuff, you sort of have to make it more like Daredevil. But yeah, I'm not sure if he'll get it that far. But yeah, so in terms of powers, basically, he's got a lot of similar stuff to Batman, where he's like really good at combat, multiple forms of combat, because he's been like a marine and a boxer and a mercenary, so he's got a lot of combat training. He can glide around on his cape, which, you know, like Batman. He chucks crescent things at people, like sort of they look like half moons, but they're sort of razor sharp. He chucks them at people. He's got like a nunchuck grapple thing where he can like use it to like beat people and then like swing from things. Yeah, like Batman a bit. There's a lot of surface stuff there. Now, normally his suit is made out of like adamantium or vibranium, but the show, which is what this take is based on, seems to be more of like an Egyptian mummy kind of thing, which I think is a really interesting take on his costume, and it sort of works. It makes sense. So, you know, that's probably like not bulletproof or anything. And Mark isn't like invulnerable. Well, he is and he isn't. He's been resurrected by Khonshu in the past, so maybe if Khonshu was like watching over him, he could like resurrect him and make him basically immortal. He's not super strong or anything. Like, at his like most superpowered, he can lift 2 tons, which, you know, isn't super strong, but it's stronger than your average person. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, and his mental illness makes him immune to psychic attacks, which is an interesting thing.
So it would fare well against ScarJo in...
Yes. Yes. And
what Lucy.
If he makes it to the Champion of Champions, he'd do well against her.
Interesting.
So yeah, you know, he's got some. He's basically Batman, but with more mental problems. Super interesting character. Fairly good, you know, first competitor for this week. I think he's got a.
Yeah.
And before we move on, my favourite thing about Moon Knight, after saying all that, is the fact that one of his like main side characters is a werewolf. And can you guess what this werewolf is called?
Wolfie.
Oh, it's even better. He's a man called Jack Russell, who turns into a werewolf.
Oh, nice.
I love it. I hope he gets his own spin-off. I hope when he turns into a werewolf, it's just like a giant Jack Russell. Not like a monster, just a giant Jack Russell. I love it. Yeah. But that's Moon Knight. So hopefully the show is good. Maybe after we've seen the first episode, we'll sort of come back and say, that was really good, or that was a disappointment. Yeah. So moving on, because there is another Marvel hero, Oscar Isaac, has played, and will play more so in the near future. From the post-credits of Into the Spider-Verse and big part of the upcoming Across the Spider-Verse, Spider-Man 2099.
Cool.
Again, do you know much about Spider-Man 2099?
No, I know virtually nothing. Well, I know exactly nothing. I know he's Into the Spider-Verse, apparently.
He is. We gave our thoughts on Into the Spider-Verse a few weeks ago, so go and watch the Zoe Kravitz episode if you want to hear our thoughts.
We can't be asked to say it all again, so fucking watch a different podcast if you want our opinions on a film that we're covering.
We've got more film reviews, which are going to need more time to come, trust me. So we don't have time to repeat old film reviews. Basically, we both really dug into the Spider-Verse, and I guess we could say... Oh, yeah, what's that?
I mean, with Spider-Man 2 being the best Spider-Man film, if somebody was to come to me and say, Max, I think Into the Spider-Verse is a better Spider-Man film, I'd go, you know what? I respect the opinion. It's a solid film. It's well made. There's no glaring errors. Yeah. So that Spider-Man film, I'd be okay with being at number one.
The more of the passive-aggressive shots across the bow. oh dear.
Well, I'm not saying anything. I'm praising films. I'm only praising films, Your Honour.
Yeah. So. I guess something new we can say, thoughts on the trailer for Across the Spider-Verse, looks pretty good, like the first one. I like, based on what they've said in an interview, I like the fact that each universe is going to have its own art style. I think that's a really good choice. It sort of takes one of the things that everyone loved about the first one, which was the sort of freshness and the style that the animation had, and sort of taken it to the next level. So I'm glad that's a lesson they've taken from it. But yeah. Looks pretty good, although it is a part one, so I'm interested in what story that's going to be.
So someone of weight is going to die at the end.
I really hope they're finally going to bring in my boy Morlun, the best vampire-related Spider-Man villain. Fuck Morbius. Let's get Morlun in the film, please. I'll play him, Sony. If you want me, I'll play Morlun. I love him. I've got the sort of hairline to do it now. It's perfect. Not that he's got a bad hairline, he's just got like a funky one where he's got like these huge, or not huge, but like weird like cutouts on the side of his head, which you could do for me easy. But yeah, he's great. Hopefully he shows up, although he is very brutal, maybe too brutal for a sort of animated Sony film, because he like rips people's arms off and breaks necks and shit. So
well, haven't you heard that Ethan Hawke's character in Moon Knight could potentially be Morlun?
Oh, is he? Oh.
I don't know, I just googled it.
Oh, I'm not sure what I feel about that. That's a weird matchup. Yeah.
Well, old Egyptian dude versus old vampiric dude.
Oh, I guess.
Zombies versus vampires. Very, very classic cinema.
Oh, they've taken the Dark Universe. It lives on. Hashtag yes. Dark Universe lives. So Spider-Man 2099, he is the Spider-Man of the year 2099, as you may have been able to guess. He is Miguel O'Hara, who works for this giant corporation called Alchemax, who are basically his main villains. And basically there's a mishap when he's trying to get himself off this addictive drug that his boss sort of drugged him with to make him basically subservient. He sort of plays around with this genetics experiment he's been working on to try and get himself off the drug. During this, his genes are spliced with a spider, as you could probably guess. And this gives him sort of similar but different abilities to your regular Spider-Man. He doesn't have a spider sense, but he does have like super sight and super hearing, sort of more so than Peter Parker does.
Okay.
He can crawl up walls, but it's not like sort of hairs on the fingers. He's got like talons instead, razor sharp talons that he sort of digs into walls, and they can be used as weapons against people. He's also got fangs which can like paralyze people, and he's got web shooters, but they're organic, which, you know, main continuity Peter has had on a few occasions, but normally he's got the mechanical ones. Yeah, so, you know, similar but different to Spider-Man. His suit is made out of unstable molecules, which is the same stuff as the Fantastic Four use, which basically means, oh yeah, this is why they can catch on fire and turn invisible, or not tear their costume with their own talons, because they're unstable molecules. And he's got he can also glide a little bit. He's got like a little web cape thing which he can use. So yeah, a pretty strong competitor. He does have supposedly a low level telepathy, which may come in handy. Sort of like in the sense that he can possibly read people's minds on occasion. But Moon Knight, he's immune to. So you've got an interesting matchup you got there.
Yeah, that's true. Well, looks like Oscar Isaac's had some very popular Marvel roles. I'm glad that we've got all the Marvel roles out the way.
Oh, but Max.
No more Marvel.
Oh, but Max.
Because you know how much I love Marvel.
I'm afraid, my dear friend, you're wrong.
What?
You see,
What?
you see, Max, everything we've built will fall.
Marvel? What?
Everything we've built will fall. Do you remember that being like the main line of that trailer for a certain film we're about to talk about?
Yes.
That was stuck in my head because like all the trailers, no matter how different they were, had that one line. And it is, of course, a line delivered by Apocalypse in the film X-Men Apocalypse.
Whoa.
Now, this is possibly our most powerful competitor for this week. He is, according to the summary on Disney Plus, the most powerful mutant in the universe. So
I've read such things. Yes.
In the film, he looks a bit like a Power Ranger villain, and he can sort of basically control molecules. Seems to be his main thing. He can like make sand into like a weapon and phase people through the floor. And
he's pretty much got every power ever, which is always difficult, isn't it? 'Cause, now, let me have a look. He's got like when I've looked up this character, because I did look him up because I was quite interested. It's weird when that film came up. I was going through a bit of an X-Men phase.
Oh yeah.
And I remember being really interested in his character, and ultimately disappointed by the portrayal. Abilities, here we go. Superhuman strength, speed, stamina, endurance, durability, agility, reflexes, resilience, dexterity, and senseness, genius level intellect, energy and matter manipulation, flight, immortality, invulnerability, telekinesis, teleportation, telepathy, technopathy, ability to augment, manipulate, or steal the powers of other mutants and cosmic beings. So yeah, he's quite underpowered, quite thinking about it.
Yeah, you know, he could do a few more powers. Now, I was thinking about this, because this is a case where the adaptation is a little different to the source material, because this Apocalypse has to, like, swap bodies to get these new powers. And he's explicitly said not to have telepathy until he gets Charles's body, which is what he wants with Charles the whole film. He wants to take his body so he can get his powers. So
that's true.
This Apocalypse does not have mental abilities we can
So we've got to say we can only grant him the powers that he demonstrates within the film.
Yeah. Because we don't know what other mutants he's assimilated. So in the film, it's interesting how little he actually does. Because he can control atoms, which is pretty powerful. But that's like his main thing. Because like he sort of, you know, he faces people through the floor. He makes that giant pyramid out of the city at the end. Yeah.
Genius level intellect, I think we can give him that.
Yeah.
He looks like a strong guy. I'm willing to give him like super strength.
Oh, super strength, super speed, because he sort of keeps up with Quicksilver eventually. He has to take a minute.
We'll give him that. Stamina, endurance, durability.
Yeah.
Yeah. He doesn't go to a service station in between his journeys.
You know, it takes all of the X-Men to shoot him real good at the end to defeat him, because
agility, reflexes. He doesn't seem that bendy. So we'll say no on that. Resilience. He is quite resilient. Dexterity and senses. Yeah, I'd say he has them. Genius level intellect again. Energy and matter manipulation. Yep.
Yeah.
Flight.
No, he never actually flies. He does teleport. Okay. He does teleport, but he doesn't fly.
Yeah. Immortality. Yep.
Yeah.
Invulnerability. Well, he's pretty invulnerable.
He is, until they all shoot him real good at the end. When they shoot him real good, he's done for.
So he's practically invulnerable.
Yeah.
Teleportation, yep. Telepathy, no.
No.
Ability to augment, manipulate, or steal the powers of others. Mutants and cosmic beings, so he's got most of his powers, just not all of them.
He can take other powers, but for this Apocalypse he has to have the whole like contraption thing with the pyramid and the floaty tables and all that stuff, so that's not something he can pull out in the middle of a battle really, so that's going to be helpful. He can also normally like grow his size, and he does actually do that, albeit in a psychic battle with Charles. I want to say he can probably do that.
For the majority of the film, he's a 5'5" short ass. Yeah.
And not to mention, he's also incredibly charismatic as a speaker. You know, a great motivational speaker. He sounds a bit like the aliens from Toy Story.
Oh, I was going E.T.
Wow, stranger from the outside.
Yeah, so pretty powerful, but not unkillable, this version. You know, if our other competitors shoot him real good, then he's done for. Apocalypse. Now, this was the film, I don't know if I mentioned it on the recording or not, where I was like, it's not terrible, but it's not good. Like, I'd rather watch it than Dark Phoenix, I think. Do I?
Again,
I think.
It's... Dark Phoenix is awful. It's interesting, because I think... this film definitely sets up the fact that the X-Men films were going down the pan. And I think it was just so safe. I think a lot of the character, it does a thing where, a lot of the characters make decisions which are fairly safe. Quicksilver never confesses to Magneto, which would have been an interesting plot beat.
Yeah.
Would have been more interesting to kill him off, and that be Magneto's sort of motivation from then on. It would have been... they kill off the character who hasn't, been in a film for, like, the previous two films. So that's quite... just everything about it, it was just a little bit safe, in my opinion. I think it would have been a much more interesting... Because that's what they did. They sort of played this up at being a very kind of dangerous, powerful threat. And yet, at the end of the day, at the end of the film, well, what damage has been done? By the next film, well, the world seems to be back to normal again. All of our heroes but one sort of cameo survives. So, yeah, I would have been interested. I think if you're going to pitch that this guy is the most powerful mofo ever, you gotta back it up with some actions, I feel. And I feel this film was quite safe.
Max, you forget that the next film they had 10 years to rebuild the world, because these X-Men films have the really weird gimmick where they all take 10 years apart.
They don't age.
Yeah,
they're like, it'll be like 1990,
yeah,
and McAvoy's looking dashing and beautiful as ever. And 1991, he's Ian McKellen, who's also dashing and beautiful, or Patrick Stewart, who's also dashing and beautiful, but a significant age gap.
Yes,
there is.
Yes, it's very weird how First Class takes place in the 60s. Days of Future Past is the 70s, this is the 80s, and not only is that a fact, but they keep drawing attention to it, because they keep going, oh wow, when you were in the last film, Mystique, 10 years ago, you really inspired me. I'm like, but these characters are clearly not 20 years older than they were in First Class. They're 30. Just not.
30.
Well, yeah, 30 by this, yeah. And then, obviously, Dark Phoenix is the 90s, like you said, and so they don't age for 40 years. And then have a really rough 8 years. And
then, like, 5 years passes and they've all aged like 60 years.
The 90s, man, fucking hell, they were rough. They were doing some drugs.
Oasis were coming into their popularity. Drugs were all the rage. I was conceived and born.
That'll do it.
It was a radical time.
We ruined the X-Men, Max. We aged them.
Our existence ruined the X-Men.
It was, right. We were bored, and then he did some of that brilliant hand-to-head psychic acting when he put their fingers on the temple and start screaming. Ah! Fassbender, in particular, is doing the work in these films. The amount of outstretched hand, vein popping, screaming he's doing.
I will not hear a bad word about McAvoy and Fassbender.
They are very good.
Tremendous, tremendous actors. Everyone else is free game.
Yeah. See, those two are entertaining to watch in all the films. The trouble with Mystique is that after First Class, she's checked out. And it's a shame because, she could probably do a really good performance if she sort of committed like she does in First Class. But you can tell she doesn't want to be there, especially by Apocalypse. You can just tell.
Controversial.
I mean, yeah, I don't... Because, she's a good actress, but she has to actually try. And Apocalypse, you can tell she just isn't really there for it. The fact that they keep not putting her in the blue makeup and keep having to make a different plot reason for it in each film, because I think she might have been allergic to the makeup, which, fair enough, I guess. But, yeah, it's really awkward where each film she's like, I have to hide who I am. No, I'm proud to be blue. Next film, oh, actually, I have to hide who I am again. No, I am proud to be blue. Next film, no, I have to hide who I am, guys. No, I am proud to be blue.
It sums up those later X-Men films. There's a lot of inconsistencies. There's a lot of it playing safe. There's a lot of people saying one thing and doing another. That's something that always gets on my nerves, which I'm sure we'll come to with a later film. Or not. We'll see.
Fassbender gets locked in a similar sort of thing where Magneto, every film, I don't think he does much in Days of Future Past, if I remember, which is probably why it's one of the better ones of these. But all the others have a pattern of him. He's nice, but then, he's fallen to evil, and he's bad now, but, no, he's nice again at the end. And rinse and repeat.
It makes sense in First Class because his entire arc throughout that film was a revenge plot. And I guess it makes sense again in Apocalypse.
But the trouble is, they give him a whole family and everything just to say he's settled, just to kill them after 10 minutes of screen time. And I'm like,
so you don't really feel that connection.
Yeah, like maybe give the film off.
There is also, I believe, an element, and people would say it's unfair, and maybe it is, but sadly, it is the truth. That if it's been done before, the impact is a lot less hard hitting.
Yeah.
If every film, he's going to be good and then turn bad, good then turn bad. In the first film, that's really interesting. In the second film, okay. In the third film, yeah. And then the fourth film, okay.
Yeah.
Because he does the same. It's the same arc in every 4 films.
Yeah, exactly. It's when. In Star Wars, the classic redemption of Darth Vader, that's so good because you've been rooting for it since the end of Empire. And, you've had a whole trilogy of him being one way and he finally turns good. But with this, it's just flip-flopping. And so when he has the heroic turn to good, it's just, there he is again. He's good again, I guess.
Yep.
It's like that.
I thought the originals did it a lot better because he is just he is just sort of evil and knowingly evil. Like, he doesn't really have any sort of redemption arc. He doesn't start good and end bad. If anything, he starts bad and ends bad. He is always a villain.
He's more of a sympathetic villain.
He's always given those scenes where he can sort of justify himself.
Yeah, you get why he's doing it, and you get why Charles and him were friends once. But he doesn't have a whole, he's good again in those ones. And it's just... the thing with these films is that it's summed up best by my favourite line in Dark Phoenix, where Magneto himself sums the entire franchise at this point up. There's always a speech, Charles. No one cares anymore. It's true.
No.
But
it's a good thing they're not going to bring back Charles making speeches anytime soon.
Wow. Oh, lovely bit of ASMR for you there, audience. But yeah, Apocalypse. It's not terrible. I'd choose it over certain other films, but it's just very tired and a bit cliche.
Safe.
Yeah. There were a few tickable cliches I noticed, which I didn't notice before on this watch, where what is it? There's a bit where you have all the military watching shit go down, and they're like, my God, it's the end of the whole damn world. And I'm like, yeah, there you go. You summed up stakes for us. Thanks. It's just, yeah. But, I still watch over Dark Phoenix. And
yeah. Although we should get drunk and watch Dark Phoenix sometime. That could be interesting.
Yeah. Oh, that's it. I've mentioned it in the chat the other day, so I've got to bring it up now. This is the film I mentioned where I said it does the whole ending where, and now you see this film, and now next time you're going to get the film you actually wanted to see. It does one of those endings where at the end of the film they all suit up in the classic X-Men costumes. They look fantastic. They all suit up in their classic X-Men costumes. They all look fantastic. They're the X-Men, and it's they're the X-Men now. I can't wait to watch an X-Men film. And then oh no, the next film is Dark Phoenix. Oh no. And I hate that's a thing in the first place, because Uncharted does it, where you've got to have a whole film about why they become Nate and Sully.
Is this Uncharted beef?
It's more of a general trope beef, where I'm so sick of films having to have a whole other film to make the film people actually want first. We don't need an origin film for everything. They're not all superheroes, although these people are, to be fair, I guess.
Well, in these days they are.
But
And
just
it's a good thing,
jump
we
in.
haven't chosen someone who's very known for their superhero roles.
jump in
as
with,
a means to endorse it.
We're bound by the algorithm, Max. We have no choice. We are bound, chained, shackled. Although I do like Oscar Isaac, so
Anyway,
But yeah, I'm so sick of films doing the whole. Can't we just have a film made, which is the film everyone actually wants to see? It just starts where people want to see it start, it ends where people want to see it end, and that's the film. Is that such a bad thing?
who knows?
Yeah. Sadly, it is a bad thing because we'll be coming back to that trope later on. But from X-Men, Max, to X-Wings, because they fly now. They fly now.
They were always able to fly. They flew in the Clone Wars or something.
Poe Dameron, everyone's favourite military brat / spice runner, depending on which continuity you want to follow.
Han Solo.
Since Han Solo. Poe Dameron.
That copy and paste function being used heavy in that fucking trilogy.
And that is why The Last Jedi is far and away the best of the sequel trilogy. And actually better than at least 2 of the prequels, I'd say. I've really come around on Last Jedi after revisiting it a while ago. First time I watched it, I was really bored, didn't like it. Second time, I really came to like it.
I can't really think about it, and again, I'm not the biggest Star Wars fan in the world, but I do think it shouldn't get a free pass, because it does make some really dumb decisions, and I do think it makes decisions which sort of kind of breaks any sort of law we've had beforehand, and I do think there are fundamental flaws in The Last Jedi. Saying that, sort of to counter the later X-Men films, it is interesting, it does make choices, and when you're pitted against a film that has a lot of mistakes and flaws, but tries to make choices and tries to make something interesting and a bit different, compared to a film that plays it completely safe, still makes mistakes. I think like Last Jedi is much more watchable.
Yeah, I think it's the first one since definitely since George Lucas. It's the only Star Wars film since George Lucas left, and arguably the first one since the original trilogy that actually has something to say. It's not just a generic sort of sci-fi flick. There's a point to it. It's actually got something to say about how anyone can be a hero. You don't have to be born of one of these 3 bloodlines to be special. It's about what you do, not how you're born. And that's a really interesting...
Until the next film.
Until the next film, where they give in to the pissy, whiny fan babies who are like, me, 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 me. Why can't she be a Palpatine or something?
This is how I'd approach Star Wars, and like this is probably wrong. It would get a lot of people disagreeing with it, but I'll say how it is. So, I think when I was growing up, the most interesting thing was the lightsabers. Or I think you want... you do want good character, you do want, you know my opinions on storytelling, so, you want all that good stuff. But you also do come to Star Wars for the lightsaber battles. And I remember when I was a kid, I'd play the WWE games, and there is a point to this. There were so many, matches you could have in, the WWE games. You could have the one-on-one, you can have the tag team, the 2 versus 2, you can have the triple threat, the fatal 4-way, you had the 6 challenge, the 6 you had handicap, so 2-on-1, you had 3-on-1, you had 3-on-2, and you had so many different varieties in those games. And I think if I was to approach a Star Wars film, I would sort of approach every lightsaber fight sort of like that. So here's my thing. So I think the interesting thing, and why the Phantom Menace fight scene has done so well, is it's the first and only... Well, no, because they do it in the later prequels. But it was the first, triple threat lightsaber duel. But in the original trilogy, it's 1v1, 1v1, 1v1.
Yeah.
And I think maybe they do something like this in the Clone Wars, although I'll be honest, I've not really seen a lot of it.
They do a fair bit
wouldn't
of
it
that
be
in Clone
good
Wars. Yeah, what they mix
if I was to sit down and I was going to be like, right, let's make a Star Wars film, I'm instantly sort of thinking... Okay, let's have a lightsaber duel where it's 3-on-1 or 3-on-2. Let's have one where it's 4 people fighting. Let's have fucking, I don't know, let's have where it's a 2v2, have another triple threat, sort of thing, and sort of like match up all these like lightsaber duels.
Yeah.
And I think what I was kind of hoping for this trilogy was, I thought it was a really interesting dynamic, because you had three characters. You had Rey, Kylo Ren, and John Boyega's character, whose name I forget. Finn. Yeah. And they all sort of had conflicting opinions, beliefs. They were all changing their sides. A lot of them went, Finn went from dark side to light. So does Kylo Ren. Rey is tempted towards the darkness. And you basically had three characters that were like constantly rotating around each other in terms of allegiances. And I just thought that's such a good way to just have these characters turn on each other, change their views, have like these dramatic stakes where you can have Rey turn to the dark side and Kylo turn to the light side when they kind of discover each other's where they discover their own side identities and worths.
Yeah.
And I was really interested to kind of see that those three sort of interlace and weave around each other and spin around each other. And I was really interested to see how that could work out, and you could make something quite interesting. But then, and it's sort of, I don't know. Well, I just didn't do that in the end. And it was just John Boyega's character is cut out. We're just going to make it two people fighting each other. They sort of don't know, neither of them know what they believe, but they'll still fight each other as if they do anyway.
See, I think Last Jedi
that's my
is
take on.
Where you get closest to what you sort of want, because you do have the throne room battle, which some people
exactly.
Some people get super
and that was a fight scene that people really dug and people really liked.
Well, it's weird because a lot of people actually get super pernickety where they're like, "Oh, this choreography doesn't make sense," and I'm like, guys.
There is a bit of choreography that is a bit badly done, but
I would say
I appreciate the effort.
Yeah, I would say to those people, if you're going to be that pernickety, go and watch the prequels, because I love watching those lightsaber fights, but they're clearly not trying to kill each other in the prequel lightsaber fights. It's all about like hitting the other person's lightsaber and like making it all look like more like a dance, really, which looks great, but they're clearly not trying to actually kill each other in those fights. Whereas I think
there's a grey area. I think there's a nice middle ground.
Yeah, I think Return of the Jedi and like the sequels, to their credit, particularly in a few of them, they do have the sort of combat where it looks good, and they are also like swinging for each other. They are trying to kill each other. And I think the throne room fight, I think if you're going to be that pernickety on it, then there's a lot of other issues with other films you should take. But yeah, I think like The Last Jedi, I've come around on it. It's got something to say. There are some interesting choices. It's well directed. I'm not a total fan of it. There are a few choices where I'm not a big fan. I'm not particularly interested by the character of Rose. I don't hate her, but I don't particularly see... I'm not that invested in her, but she was done so dirty in Rise of Skywalker, and by,
a lot of the
that whole
characters were done dirty.
Yeah. Like I hinted at it when I introduced him. Poe Dameron. So Disney Star Wars have a whole thing where they have like a whole story group whose sole job is to make sure all the continuity with all the books and all the comics lines up with the films, and it's all nice and safely canon and there's no contradictions. That's their one job. Except Rise of Skywalker, for not really any real reason, changes the backstory they've established for Poe in said comics and said books, where originally he was meant to be like an army brat who was raised by two of the people who fought in the Battle of Endor, and like he's grown up in the Resistance and all that. They changed his backstory to, he was a spice runner, so basically a drug dealer.
Hey.
Yeah. So, yeah. Finn, poor Finn. Poor Finn.
Blazing.
Hey. He just... Well, everyone knows what happened to Finn. He got nothing to do other than shout Rey's name and look a bit distressed. Yeah. But...
So what are we giving Poe as powers?
So Poe Dameron, I think this is a return to our vehicular combat, because he is known for being a pro X-Wing pilot. So we give him an X-Wing, I think.
We'll give him an X-Wing.
Yeah.
So triangular space ship.
With wings
guns
that look like an X. They can shoot things, and they've got the proton torpedoes, so basically lasers in rockets. Yeah, no shields, unlike last week, so a little more vulnerable, but still, fast, powerful. Yeah, he's very good at flying it.
He flies now.
He flies now. Exactly. Oh, fucking hell. When I watched Rise of Skywalker in cinema, it was basically the definition of a roller coaster. People call the MCU roller coaster. Rise of Skywalker is like true roller coaster, where it's just you're flying from place to place. Oh no, it's not. It's not a compliment. It's a case of I enjoyed watching it in the cinema, as in the same way you enjoy going on like Splash Mountain or something, or I don't know. What are the popular roller coasters? What the kids use these days? Is Smiler? Is that one still?
Oh yeah, the one that like caused a lawsuit.
Yeah, well, not too different from this film by the sounds of it. Yeah, well, you enjoy going on it, but the moment you start to think about it, like, that was terrible. That was not good in any way, shape, or form. In terms of a film, in terms of story, no, that was awful. Yeah. But that's Poe Dameron.
Cool.
Now, the time has come. Shots across the bow have been taken, all podcast. Attention, a palpable, has been in the air. It's time to talk about Dune. Oscar Isaac plays Leto Atreides in Dune, and as you can probably tell, dear listener, we are divided on Dune. Now, we've done all this in private.
We're divided. I don't think we're divided at all. I feel that
wow,
we completely agree.
I think since we've done all this,
it's very visually interesting. There are many positives to it. I
was going to say, since we've done all this in private, should you do the whole, like, one of us has the floor?
Well, I don't know, Dan.
One of us takes the floor. Here's how I propose this goes down. One of us takes the floor, we give our thoughts. The other one takes the floor, they give their thoughts. We have a closing line, and that's it.
Okay.
So I'll go first, you go, and then closing
How about
lines?
we give each other a minute each?
A minute each, okay, right.
Okay. Do you want to go first?
I'll go first, and then you go, and then closing lines.
Right. I'll tell you when to go because I've got a timer in front of me.
Oh no.
Right. 3, 2, 1, go.
So Dune, I predicted Dune is going to be great because I'm familiar a little bit with the source material and I'm a big fan of the director's work. Denis Villeneuve, he's fantastic. I predicted it was going to be fantastic, and I was right. The film got a ton of award buzz from the Oscars, 10 nominations, one of the leading films this year. It got a really good audience reception. They greenlit a sequel after the first weekend, I believe it was. And I think it's fantastic. It adapts a very hard to adapt book brilliantly. The cinematography is beautiful. The direction is fantastic. The score is brilliant. What it does in terms of weaving brilliant themes, it explores them very well. There's some very interesting themes to explore with how faith can be weaponized and manipulated by people for their own ends. That's explored very interestingly. That's set up to be explored even further. What else was I going to say? Fuck. I think the performances are good, very good for like this first one, but they service the plot very well. Shit.
I think you made most of your points.
I think so. There was one key thing I think I forgot, but we'll maybe touch on it in closing lines.
That's all right. That's all right. Yeah, cool.
I'm watching the minute on my recording, so
that's all right.
I'll give you the go.
Okay, cool.
I'll wait until it gets to like a 5. Right.
A round number.
Oh no, I'll go till it gets to 0. Okay, ready? So 4, 3, 2, 1, time.
Everything Dan says is vastly true. The cinematography is great. The sound design's great. The story... Oh, actually, no, never mind. Some of the themes are quite interesting. The world building's very good. I enjoyed the worms. I enjoyed the spice. I enjoyed the box scene. All of that's all good. Dan is right about that. What he fails to bring up, I think, is quite telling. He brings up that the fact that essentially all of the characters are not characters. They don't make decisions. The storyline is very, as an overarching narrative, is very kind of overdone and done before. It's very simple, bad guys betray good guys, son wants revenge. Hamlet, Lion King, you've all seen it done before. The main character, Paul, in this dystopian world, doesn't really do anything. He has no agency. He's meant to be our hero, but he has no likable ideas. He doesn't do anything. He contradicts himself, and it's kind of quite lazily written. And not as good.
Yeah, impressive. That was the key thing.
It's quite tough.
It is, but it's fun. So, closing lines, because you actually reminded me of what I was going to say.
Did I? Okay.
The world building, that was the other key thing I was going to bring up. So, I think...
I thought the world building was fine. I thought I enjoyed the world building.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say the fact that the way this film weaves its world building is really brilliant, because it's a very complex...
Weaves is an interesting verb.
I think it does, because it's a very complex and layered world to build, and it doesn't really have like any blocks of text at the start of the film or any awkward chunks of exposition. It's just sort of it's built through how characters talk naturally, and situations that present themselves, and how they react to certain things, and yeah, it's just sort of weaved organically through the story. And I think that's I think it's an undervalued thing, I think. And in terms of the character, here's my final rebuttal, and then that's closing lines done. I think there is character arcs in this film. Paul goes from being this sort of unwanting inheritor of this great noble house, and also the prophesized saviour of these people, neither of which he wants, especially because the prophecy is all bullshit manufactured by his mother's cult, and he doesn't really want to be part of that. And it's sort of him having to accept that and having it thrust upon him. And yeah, you are right, it's been done before, but it's a reason it's been done. It's a strong arc. And the key thing is that this film is risky, which I think we both want more from Hollywood. We do want risky films. This was risky in a sense that it is explicitly half of the story, and the real juicy stuff with characters and their arcs comes in the second half, where there's a reason why it's set up to be a fairly standard arc, because they're waiting to pull the rug out from under you, and it's going to be super interesting. And yes, I agree it's risky, because you could say, well, this film on its own doesn't look as good, but I think all the other qualities it does, it works beautifully as an establishing film, and sort of telling the first half of this story. And yes, that's the risk, but for me it pays off.
Fucking hell, this is a long final line.
It's a risk, yes, and I can see why it wouldn't work for some people. I can see why you wouldn't like it, but I do think it is an objectively good film. And I think everyone does have an objectively good film they don't like, at least one. That's my closing line. Over to you.
Okay, cool. I don't really want to go into the world building too much, but just as a very small rebuttal to what you said, the film opens with a narration. I know it's not a literal block text like Star Wars, because that would be too much of a rip-off, but it serves the same purpose. I'm not sure that the character dialogue weaving in the world building is maybe as strong as you present. It felt to me like it was just like, oh, okay, let's do the box. It's the time in the film to do the box. Okay, now let's do the worm thing. Okay, let's now do the whatever thing. So again, I think it's a very generous use of the verb weave. I think, I don't know, I like how you use the term risky, because you know that I enjoy, or I at least appreciate films which are risky. I still, saying that, I don't really see where the risk is, or how it's risky to make a film that sort of does nothing with a character, just to sort of say, oh, but in the next film he does good. If anything, I think that's the opposite of risky. That's playing it safe, seeing how people sort of enjoy the concept and the world of the film, and then in the next film will be a bit more interesting with it. And in the next film, I will judge his character, and if he's interesting, like you, as someone who knows more about the extended lore, predicts, then, I will come back and I'll say I enjoyed the character. But in this film, he doesn't essentially, I feel his arc is quite weak. He's always, from the beginning of the film, he doesn't like what he's been assigned to do or what he's been destined to do. At the end of the film, he doesn't like what he's been destined to do. It's not like he starts really proud and really kind of like impressed and, or I don't know, he doesn't, I don't know. I don't really see where the arc is there necessarily. And there may be one, but it may not be done very well. I think Timothée Chalamet's performance is quite not And maybe that is the problem with it. Maybe with a better performance, maybe it sells these emotions and this change. But I really didn't find the change, the arc, to really be there, compared to, say, Godfather, where the opening image of Michael Corleone, spoilers for a 60-year-old film, is him as a soldier sitting down enjoying his life with a girlfriend or partner, to him at the end of the film being in a dark room, powerful, surrounded by mobsters as a criminal, shutting away his love. That's in two images you see the difference, and it's the start and the end. So maybe you are right that there's an arc there, but to me it just wasn't very clear. And objectively, yeah, sure, it might be a good film, but for me, and I think for a lot of people, storytelling and writing is it's near the top of the priorities of a good film. Every good film has strong characters and a good story. I think this film lacked in it, and this is why I always struggled to get on board with it.
Okay, fair enough. I think if I may, and then you can have a final
Because I'm going to
byline.
do this forever.
If I may, just a final byline.
We're only 5 characters in.
It's just because there's a thing you mentioned. You mentioned how it's risky. It's risky for this precise reason. The fact that a lot of people like yourself think that the character arcs aren't that interesting yet, and it's because it is only half the story. And I think it's a risk to make a film where you're like, this is only the first half, and the more interesting character stuff is in the second half. What the first half does is the thematic exploration and establishing the world and building it all up and setting it up, which this film does do beautifully. The risk is leaving the more interesting character stuff for the second half, and I can see why it doesn't appeal to you, but I do think it's a very well written story. And I think the character stuff is fine for this one, and it gets better. I can see why you don't like it, but I do think it's, like I said, that is where the risk is, to answer that question.
Okay. Well,
your byline.
If
Go.
that is the risk, and sure, maybe they did sacrifice good storytelling and character for visual, which is something that they probably did do, to be honest. That still allows me, they do that knowing that people like me are going to criticize it, and they're sort of doing that knowing that I'm right. If you're saying that their risk is that they're not going to focus on character and they're not going to focus on a in-depth story, my criticism of saying there isn't much character and there isn't an in-depth story is fundamentally correct. It may be risky, but it doesn't change the fact that it's true.
Well, 10 Oscar noms, don't lie. 10 Oscar noms, don't lie.
No, yeah, especially all the Oscar noms for acting and performances. And
Hey, Best Picture. It's got a Best Picture nom.
Yeah, but hang on, you were a month ago slagging off the Oscar, so Blade Runner didn't deserve an Oscar, are you saying?
No, Matt.
Blade Runner
a month ago was a month ago, Max. I can't remember what I said a month ago.
Anyway, who's Oscar?
It's weird. It's weird how we've sort of swapped normal perspectives with this one, where you're the sort of person who rallies against what's objectively good and the awards, all that, and I'm the one who's like, no, it all makes sense, Max.
I think Oscars are a good indication of a film that is good, and I think all of the praises you have for Dune are valid. And I just think my negatives also are valid.
I don't think you're wrong.
But the Oscars do indicate to films that are good. It doesn't mean that every film that has been nominated for an Oscar is good. It just means that there's something of merit within those films, let's say.
Speaking of good Oscar Isaac.
Yeah.
He is Duke Leto Atreides, who is head of House Atreides, so the noble house. There is no call, they do not answer. If you summon them, they will be there. Like Ghostbusters. He is obviously very proficient in combat because he's been trained his whole life to do it. He has the shields, the personal shields they all have, which can only be penetrated by slow-moving objects. They can stop projectiles, but if something's going slowly, it can break through the shield. He's equipped at the end by a poison tooth, which he can break in case of emergencies. So he's got a few cool gadgets, and obviously they've got the blades they use to fight with, which will be his main offensive weapon. So
Okay.
some good offense, some good defense. Yeah, a strong competitor. Have you seen the Force shields in the original Dune from like the 1980s?
No, I've seen nothing of Dune. I've seen the newest one.
It's quite.
And my opinions are based purely on that film.
It's quite funny. The effects for the old one, they're very dated. The personal shields in the original look like a giant refrigerator around you. They're huge rectangles around every limb. It's quite funny. But obviously this one, they're a lot more close and like, skin tight. Yeah. One final story from Dune. I think a testament to the film's quality for me is how I managed to enjoy it in spite of my cinema experience, because I saw it in my my cursed months where every cinema experience I had was awful. Like Shang-Chi, I had a terrible experience because the back row were just disgusting. And yeah, I'm not going to defend Shang-Chi that much. All right, not good. It commits another cardinal sin, which we'll get to in our tropes episode, but it's not the worst. It's fine. But the back row behind me was disgusting. They were like burping and talking the entire film. It was horrible. Dune, when I watched Dune, a fly was in the screening with us, and it kept crawling over the projector every now and then, which was just horrific.
Trying to escape.
And also there was a less bad crowd, but still not great. The people sat behind me were like a bunch of teenagers who clearly thought this was going to be your average sci-fi flick. Boy, did they pick the wrong film for an average sci-fi flick. As they probably realised when they saw the words Dune Part 1 at the start, because the girl behind me turned to her friend and went, Part 1! Which was quite funny. But yeah, awful experience, but I still enjoyed the film, which is a testament to it, I think. How are your cinema experiences generally, Max? We've not really talked about that.
Well, mine are perfectly. I'm quite an agreeable person, believe it or not. So I'm not too fussed about stuff. I've got nice options. I get free cinema tickets in one cinema. And in another cinema there are tickets for like £4. So
Solid.
Price wise, I'm doing well. Yeah, no, I like it. I enjoy the cinema. Maybe I get so engaged and drawn into the films that I maybe don't notice audiences, or maybe I tend to go. I think what it is, I tend to go sort of midweek, and you tend not to get kids and stuff kind of midday, midweek around then. I think it's on weekends you get that kind of crowd that are maybe a bit disruptive.
Yeah, I think you just pick good times and get pretty lucky, because I've had some. I love going to the cinema, but I get so nervous when I'm worried about the crowd I'm going to get. Like when I watched The Batman, there was a guy during all the trailers who was talking really loudly on his phone, and I just kept giving him the side eye, thinking, "Please shut up! Please hang up this phone call soon, please." And thankfully he did. But I was so worried. But yeah, I enjoyed the cinema. Save our cinemas, but please, for the love of God, crack down on crowds. So yeah, that's cool. Leto Atreides. We've done it. We made it through Dune. Now next up, he's creepy and he's kooky. He's mysterious and spooky. He is Gomez Addams from the Addams Family, the animated version. Have you seen said film?
No, I haven't.
It's fun. It's really fun. I was expecting it to be like sort of like a fairly sort of fun but average like animation. Not bad, but not reinventing the wheel. But I actually really enjoyed it. I thought it was really fun.
Okay.
There's a lot of great sort of like,
Tell me about his powers.
Gags. Well, he's clearly very agile because he survives multiple attempts on his life from his son, who's just tossing explosives at him and firing rockets all the time. He survives all of that. A key plot point is him teaching his son how to fence really well with his sword, because he is mentioned to be like the best swordsman in their family, Gomez Addams, that is. And he's trying to teach his son, but his son's like, no, I'm better with explosives, Dad. So he's good at sword fighting and he's super agile. And that's Gomez Addams. But yeah, fun film. It's on Netflix. Check it out if you want. Some great gags. Some fairly low-hanging gags, but they're still fun the way they're executed. Yeah.
Cool.
Moving on to another good film. You mentioned it earlier. It's Ex Machina. Ex Machina, in which he plays Nathan.
Good.
Another very, very, very good film. It's sort of I got the vibe from it, and it obviously because it's a film for sort of sci-fi film.
It is. Yeah, it's
weird.
a sci-fi film.
Yeah, it's weird how they have like
focuses on character and storytelling.
Max, we've done Dune. Leave it.
I didn't say anything about Dune. I was complimenting the film.
We can all tell from your tone, Max. But yeah, it's weird how like do you know what I mean? How like a lot of films, particularly the sci-fi ones, but I think in general, like film films have a certain.
Film 4 as a studio makes some good films.
Yeah,
I think they did in Bruges as well. So
I think so.
They make good films.
Didn't they do
it's
Shame?
Like A24 as well.
Didn't they make Shame as well? Which I think we
quite possibly, yeah.
But yeah, they're good. They've got a certain vibe about them. They're sort of quite low key, but high
low
character
budget
stake.
indie films.
Yeah,
I like it. I dig it.
Sort of low key, high character stakes sort of films with interesting concepts. And they're good. They're really good. And Ex Machina is another really good film. One of those.
I remember Oscar Isaac being buff as hell in that film.
Oh yeah,
built like a brick shit house.
I mean, that's something you've got to give to Dune. That scene where he's basically naked. Oh, that beefcake.
Dan, you've done Dune.
Fair enough. Beefcake. But yeah, he's very buff in this film. He's like if Steve Jobs was like super buff. That's basically his character.
Yeah, he does look a bit like Steve Jobs actually.
Because he basically invented his universe's version of Google and got super rich from it. And it's like works out every day, drinks a little bit too much, but keeps healthy, is very smart. So yeah,
and creating
probably our weakest competitor,
AIs.
But he's still not
so
helpless.
what would you say his ability? He's quite strong, and smart. I think we can say he's strong and smart.
Yeah, a super.
Does he have any weapon? I haven't seen the film in so long.
So he's a super in shape version of like a tech genius. He does at one point wield he takes off the ends of one of his weights. He unscrews the weights themselves just so he's got the stick and uses that to smack off one of Ava's arms. So he can use that as a weapon. But other than that, not really.
Possibly. I mean, I don't think it's going to make much of a difference anyway.
No, he's probably going to get capped instantly.
Yeah.
But yeah, good film.
But
wasn't
Ex
this
Machina a good film? We won't spoil it too much because
No.
I would actually recommend people watching it.
Oh yeah, it's very interesting. Wasn't this a case of the sort of White House Down, Olympus Has Fallen situation where a bunch of films with very similar concepts came out in the same time period? Because didn't you watch one of Scarlett Johansson called Her or something, which is a similar?
No, here's a lot different. Here's
okay.
a lot different.
Okay, fair enough.
But maybe there's another film. I mean, to be fair, there are sort of films I can think of which are a little bit similar, not massively, not identical. So I don't think it's quite the Olympus Has Fallen, White House Down. But I just think with modern technology, it's a conversation that we've had, and I think is becoming at the forefront of some films.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rue of the day when you go back into the AI debate. Jesus, you thought Dune was bad.
Well, yeah, you've watched a film. You've watched a film that essentially, agrees with one of us.
Well, yeah, that is true.
For lack of a better. Anyway.
Now, after all these great films we talked about, unfortunately, it had to end in misery. It had to end in misery and just terrible.
Oh yeah, because
sadness.
you did a bad film.
I did do a bad film. Now I've heard about this film
watched a bad
being
film.
famously bad and uninteresting. Now it was 5%, maybe 10% better than I was expecting, but it's still very much not good. It is 2010's Robin Hood.
Oh, the Russell Crowe. Is that the Russell Crowe
It is,
one?
yeah.
I didn't realise he was in that.
Have you seen it?
No, I haven't. I mean, I know the beats of Robin Hood, so I imagine I'll be able to...
Oscar Isaac, he does look quite different in it because he's quite young. He plays Prince John, who by the end of the story is King John. So basically the bad guy at the end of it, he's basically a whiny brat prince for most of the film, and then
love it.
Yeah. He does have one combat scene, but where they're explicitly like, "Sire, you haven't been into combat before," and he's like, "I've got to do this for my people." And then he takes out a couple guys, but he's not really in that much combat. So, you know, he can have a sword, his suit of armor, but he's not particularly proficient with them.
I've just seen who the director is.
Yeah, this is what I mentioned when we were talking about sadness when seeing the director.
Yeah, you're not a big fan of this director. And,
Oh, no, it's not that I'm not a big fan of them. I love... they're like a director that I'm so disappointed in, because their early work, Alien, Blade Runner, they're fantastic, brilliant, you know, undeniable classics. They're fantastic films by this director. And then his later career, he's done stuff like this and like House of Gucci. And I'm like, what happened to you, man? You used to be so good. And now he's not as good. And I've not seen The Last Duel yet, which I'm told is actually pretty good. So hopefully that's like a redemption for him.
I've been told it's a little bit disappointing.
Oh.
So, we'll see.
Hopefully it's somewhere in the middle, so it's a bit of a redemption.
Yeah.
And then he can
House of Gucci
build on that.
I struggled a bit with House of Gucci. And not to be mean, because I hope that, I want every film I watch to be good. But because I was sort of glad that House of Gucci didn't do well, in the sense that Ridley Scott was making big points about how nobody watches good films anymore, they just watch MCU films, which, you know, there may be lints of truth in that, but I think it's a much more expansive answer than something so simplistic. So I was worried that, well, what if he was right? What if House of Gucci was good? And if House of Gucci was good, it would sort of mean that, yeah, people aren't watching good films anymore. They're watching stuff that's more comforting, which I'd be very sad about, because I really enjoy the kind of indie kind of philosophical films.
Yeah.
So by House of Gucci being bad, or me not liking it, it gave me confidence that it was... we do like good films, and I don't think we'll ever stop liking good films, because that's what a good film means.
Like Dune.
And I think comfort films have their place. So, yeah, I never want a film to be bad, but House of Gucci is the closest case to me being glad that a film's not been good, because it means that cinema is not dead. Long live cinema.
Yeah, we've come full circle, because of course in House of Gucci, one Jared Leto features.
Yeah.
Oh, now I've not seen it in full, but given how he went into so much detail with his method acting, like he always does, because he's such a good method actor, could you tell that he lived as an Italian man for a month when he watched House of Gucci, Max?
No, he does a Mario impression. It's as good as me wearing a lot of prosthetics and then just kind of walking into a room and going, "Mamma mia! Oh my God! Oh, look at your dress! It is so beautiful." Yeah. You know, that is the level of performance, and I nailed that with about 3 seconds preparation.
Based on what I'm seeing, that's exactly what it sounds like. Yeah.
Essentially, Jared Leto needs to go full method to be as good as actor as I am. Yeah, that's quite telling, and that's why I've been cast as Morlun in the next.
No, you took my dream role. Damn it! Oh, sorry. I'll be Shasta. I'll be like the sexy spider wasp thing.
No, I'm Madam Web.
Oh. Well, I can see you do it. You know, bit of a grey wig, sit in a chair, blindfold on. Yeah, perfect.
Does Prince John have any powers?
Oh, I was just going to say, with method acting, the thing with method acting is that Robert Pattinson nailed it. Funnily enough, where you never hear
method act.
No, but what he did, he made a comment on method acting where he said, funnily enough, you don't see method actors playing nice people. You only ever hear method actors being method when they're playing absolute arseholes. And I think he's got kind of a point there. I mean, maybe the exception is Daniel Day-Lewis, but he's not pretending.
I'm running through Daniel Day-Lewis roles. Well, the thing is, I mean, because Daniel Day-Lewis is just in such good films, he always gets a character who has so many flaws. In There Will Be Blood, which is maybe the best acting performance of all time, he does play a villain. Yeah. In Phantom Thread, I don't think he's a villain. He's just sort of flawed. But no, I take the point. I think it's maybe saying people going method is a way to excuse.
It seems to be
playing bad characters.
And like, I don't. Daniel Day-Lewis may be the exception because he seems like a really lovely guy.
Because he actually method acts. He doesn't just say he method acts and then but then dresses up as the Joker for.
Yeah, that's it. That's I think both of our biggest issues with Jared Leto is that he says all this stuff about how he's a method actor, but then he's just by all accounts, a really horrible person to be around on set for performances which
Based on the rumours,
aren't great.
yeah.
Based on hearsay, yes, it could all be bollocks, but multiple accounts seem to say that he's an arsehole on set for performances which aren't that great. And
Which is weird because in the early 2000s he was actually in some good films, and I think he was praised with some really strong performances.
I think he's
American
very good
Psycho,
in
Requiem for a Dream.
I think he's very good in 2049. He's very good in Blade Runner 2049. He's very good in that, but I've not seen American Psycho. I need to watch it.
I was saying to my colleague the other day, I don't know why I don't love it more, because I love it, but I really it's really every scene is fun. It is one of those films where I mean, there are scenes that are better than others, but I don't think there's a scene that's really boring, and that might just be because Christian Bale is so good in the role.
It does look like a very fun film.
It is. Apparently the book's even more fucked.
But
So,
Prince John, like I said, he's sort of wily brow, not very well versed in combat, but he does have a sword and a suit of armour. So he takes out a couple of guys, so he's not, useless, but not great either. The main issues with this film, given that it's a Robin Hood film, what's one of the main things you'd expect in the combat scenes, in fight scenes?
Bow and arrows.
Yeah, you'd think that, right? Wouldn't you? You'd think Robin Hood would use a bow and arrow. He does.
Yeah.
Twice.
Nice.
If I'm being generous, maybe 3 times. There's an opening battle scene where he uses bow and arrow a bit, and the end battle scene where he uses bow and arrow for one single kill. He gets the final kill on the bad guy with the bow and arrow, but this after Robin Hood has had a massive sword fight with him. They've had a big old sword fight. So why is this? Especially when, oh my god, they at the start of the battle they explicitly say, right, we need 2 companies, the cavalry on the beach and a bunch of archers on the cliff. And I'm like, oh, okay, so Robin's going to go with the archers, right? No, he goes with the cavalry into the battle on the beach and then only uses the bow and arrow once to get the final kill. And it's,
Wow.
And apparently the Magna Carta is now like the American Bill of Rights, as apparently what this film says it is, when it's not. It's a legal document to help barons have more power, not a Bill of Rights for every man, woman and child, like Robin makes it out to be. It's very strange. It's trying to be like this massively historical epic based in the real life history, but it gets it wrong, and Robin Hood's not really Robin Hood. And,
the question is, does he have a hood?
He does use it once. There's the opening shot of him when the title comes up is him wearing a cool hood, and that's it. But they call him, and it made me laugh, Robin of the Hood is how they refer to him at the end.
Robin of the... I just imagine straight out of Compton.
Exactly my thoughts. Straight out of Sherwood.
Nice.
Oh.
Do we have a wild card on this very long podcast?
We do. Yeah, it is. Oh, God, crikey, yeah. We do. Now, I was still conflicted. I thought about maybe putting Jack Russell, the werewolf dog from Moonlight Inn.
Nice.
But I thought, we've had enough of dogs on this podcast recently. Let's give them a break. Because...
Damn it.
There's a meme.
Can't kill any dogs this week.
No, I'm saving the dogs. There's a meme circling, or has circled for ages, since Rise of Skywalker came out, which Oscar Isaac is the prominent member of. And this meme is hilarious in how it, sums up a particularly bad line of exposition in Rise of Skywalker.
One of the worst lines of dialogue I've ever heard.
Yeah. Somehow, Palpatine has returned. That's all you need to know. And I thought, based on that, why not make Palpatine the wild card this week? So Emperor Palpatine is our wild card.
Emperor Palpatine. Oh, he's going to be strong.
Yeah, lightning.
Is it like
Force use.
Revenge of the Sith, where he's great with a lightsaber as well?
I think we can make him if we have. Although, do play.
Is it also? Wait, have we also sort of made him sort of invulnerable? Because every time you kill him, he's just going to sort of somehow return.
Somehow,
and that's all we could say. Because we don't have to. This is the thing. We don't have to justify it. If he gets killed, he just comes back. How?
This is true.
Somehow he returns.
This is true.
So he's basically unkillable.
Just keeps popping up again. Hello, it's me again. Oh, fucking hell. I think we'll
Interesting.
make it Rise of Skywalker Palpatine, since they're in the same film together. So no lightsaber, but like super lightning powers and.
I'm sure he could
forces.
still wield a lightsaber, though.
He could, but all right, we can give him a lightsaber.
Yeah.
You just want a lightsaber fight. Fair enough.
Yep.
So that is
Where is this battle taking place?
Now, again, there were two options. One is Nueva York, which is where Spider-Man 2099 lives, which is basically like Blade Runner City.
Ooh.
It's like a city sort of
Okay.
from Blade Runner. The other option,
Okay.
given how two of these characters have their roots in Egypt, was the pyramids. Like fight around the pyramids with the
Ooh.
Sphinx and the pyramids and all
I
the
do like
sand.
the pyramids.
I think.
Yeah, I like the pyramids.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. Ties into Moon Knight, our promotion. Yeah. So our gladiators, to run through them again, are Moon Knight, Spider-Man 2099, Apocalypse, Poe Dameron, Leto Atreides, Gomez Addams, Nathan, and Prince John. And the wild card is Palpatine.
Nice.
They are fighting in the pyramids. Yeah. So we've made it. Hour
The
40.
bell rings.
The bell rings. Gun fires. Battle begins.
Now I just have a question.
Yes.
How do we stop Apocalypse from sort of instantly winning?
Well, the key to stopping Apocalypse is for him to be shot real good. So maybe maybe he starts doing his whole charismatic speech, because he does like to recruit horsemen.
Yeah, okay.
He does. So maybe he tries to recruit some of the other gladiators as his horsemen. So maybe that sort of gives the others an edge while he's talking.
So maybe at the start he's just sort of watching.
Yeah.
He's learning
My
and see
children.
who the most powerful people are.
Yeah. He's like, my children, I shall stand back and let the strong rise from
Exactly.
the weak.
Palpatine's evil, so I think he's going straight in with some fucking lightning shit.
Oh yeah. Does he try to turn anyone as well? Is it like a competition where they're like vying for the interests of the other
I can
gladiators?
just imagine sort of like X Factor, where you got Palpatine and Apocalypse at a desk, and each of them coming through doing auditions.
Moon Knight,
or like
who
The
do you want to
Voice.
choose?
And then you got to turn the chair around.
Wow. I'd watch it, that's all I'm
So
saying.
Palpatine, Apocalypse, say Moon Knight, and Prince John
Yes.
are all at an X Factor desk, and Poe just sort of walks on stage. Hey, I'm Poe Dameron. I'm a flyer. I fly now. And
My
then,
child. Go.
the guy from Ex Machina comes on like with Steve Jobs, and he's just like, a phone, a iPod, mix them together, and what do we have? iPhone. Palpatine applauds. He likes the sort of, he likes the corporate idea behind it.
Palpatine, Apocalypse stands up and it picks up the phone and goes,
Yeah.
and Steve
Hits
Jobs
the
goes,
golden buzzer.
what are you doing? And Apocalypse goes, learning. Oh, so back to the actual pyramids.
Yeah.
So I think Poe Dameron, he does know Palpatine, so maybe he immediately goes like a bombing run trying to take out Palpatine.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so Poe speeds towards Palpatine. Can Palpatine overcome that? Just to spray an onslaught of...
I mean, he
weaponry?
does do that massive base boost at the end of Rise of Skywalker, where he just fires his lightning into the sky and like shuts down all the ships at once. So I guess he could probably like disable an X-wing with his lightning if he wanted to.
Oh, okay. So, say he does that.
Maybe
Does Poe crash and die?
maybe he doesn't immediately
Crash
kill
into
him.
the pyramids.
Maybe he like sort of.
Well, no, you've said it now. You got to have no bias, Dan. You've said
Well,
it.
I'm just thinking, would Palpatine like want to sort of use him like somehow? Would he like, I don't know, deflect the torpedoes to kill other gladiators or something with the Force? But maybe he does just
sure
kill
he
him.
would. I'm not. You've pitched him like shooting lightning into the air and stopping this onslaught of bullets.
So yeah, okay. So Palpatine, like,
I would say if Poe is firing,
yeah,
he gets the first shots off. Is there any way Palpatine can dodge it?
he could stop it with the Force, but
Well,
it
maybe
depends
stop-
on the
okay.
speed. Maybe he doesn't stop it. Maybe it's too fast. All he can do is like one of his weird 360 spins where he dodges.
yeah. Dodges the bullets. lightning's the sky. Poe crashes into the pyramids and dies horribly in a crash.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't think Poe would be out.
Poe's immediately taken out. Damn. Maybe the torpedo, he deflects it. Because Poe got a few shots off. So maybe Palpatine dodges the shots. Do they hit anyone else? Like, is anyone else around Palpatine that could get hit?
I don't know, possibly.
Maybe it startles the horse Prince John is on. And
putting Prince John on a horse.
Yeah, he does ride around on one in battle, so fuck it, he can have a horse.
Okay.
So
Prince John falls off his horse.
The horse,
because of all the explosions.
Yeah, he
falls into the arms of Moon Knight. Moon Knight takes out his crescent moon and cuts his face off.
Yes.
Immediately.
Yes, Moon Knight is, a protector of the
wears it as a Halloween mask. He's just walking around like another man's face.
Yeah, I buy that.
he does a little Oscar Isaac impression. I can't tell between work and life. Moon Knight just taking the piss out of his
I buy that
identity.
So
Steve Jobs has no idea. I'm just going to call him Steve Jobs. Buff Steve Jobs has no idea what's happening.
So Poe's down, King John's down, his face is being worn by Moon Knight.
Moon Knight. What's Spider-Man 2099 doing?
Now, he's also another hero, but he's also a brutal hero. He's got talent and shit. Maybe he sees Moon Knight rip off Prince John's face, and it's this guy's a monster. I need to stop him first.
Okay.
So he jumps at Moon Knight, and then maybe he tries to get inside his head, but he can't because of Moon Knight's mental illness.
Yeah.
So then they have a little scrap.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Now he throw in his crescent moon. Spider-Man dodging it, flinging webs, but then he's cutting the webs with the crescent moon.
Yeah, pretty much.
Trying to get towards each other. Spider-Man with a few kicks to the face. Moon Knight with a few brutal punches. Moon Knight throws one punch. Spider-Man blocks it and then socks him in the face and then knocks Prince John's face off of Moon Knight with such a powerful punch. This only enrages Moon Knight. What do we think happens?
Well, in the comics I'm currently reading...
watches intently.
In the comics I'm currently reading, there is a whole thing with faces and identity for Moon Knight. He needs the Moon Knight mask on to be able to see things how he thinks they really are. So I guess, with that whole faceless and identity thing, maybe having a face taken off him sort of throws his identity sort of into a spiral and
so he's discombobulated.
It discombobulates but also enrages him, I think. So maybe he's sort of wildly swinging like a sort of like a angry dog almost, just swinging and throwing crescent moons and aggressively just fighting back.
A matter where he becomes a better fighter, or is his rage at his He's not like a Batman where he's normally fueled by pure tactics. So I think the emotion can give him an edge, but it does also make him more vulnerable to Spider-Man 2099 sort of getting his cheeky blow in. So maybe it gets to a situation where Moon Knight's beating the shit out of him and gets on top of him. But again, he gets too close with the rage, with the power, with the anger. And did you say Spider-Man had venom bites or something?
He's got talons.
Could he bite him?
He could bite him, or he could use his talons because he's got razor sharp claws. So maybe Moon Knight initially gets the upper hand and is just pummeling Spider-Man 2099, just beating on him. And then in that rage he forgets that 2099 has got talons, so maybe he just sinks them into Moon Knight's chest. Kills him.
So is Moon Knight gone?
Well, here's the thing. As I mentioned, he has been resurrected by Khonshu, and they are in Egypt, home of Khonshu. So can he have a one-time resurrection by Khonshu, since that's a history of the character?
Well, what is Khonshu?
Khonshu is the
he a
Egyptian.
person?
He's the Egyptian moon god who may or may not be real, but basically is real because he has resurrected him. So I'm willing to give him a one-time resurrection.
Yes, but I know that's because of your bias, Dan, because you like him.
No, it's an established. I mean, if I wanted to be like fully biased,
Where's
I
Prince
could.
John's resurrection?
Prince John never got a resurrection. To be fair to Moon Knight, Moon Knight's actually been resurrected twice in the comics. So I'm actually sort of being fair by only granting him one.
Well,
we don't have to. I just thought I'd propose it because it's a thing.
If you really want, what I will grant that Apocalypse has seen his Egyptianness, he's seen his aggressive fighting style, and he's been quite impressed. So while Spider-Man goes on to fight someone else, Apocalypse approaches the dying or the bleeding out Moon Knight and just kind of uses his powers to remove any venom from his system and thus saving him.
Okay.
I will give you that.
Okay. Does he do the whole horseman thing where he's like, "My child, know your true strength"?
Yeah, exactly. And he gives him a little speech.
Okay.
Now, what else is going on? Duke Leto Atreides.
Now, he's used to fighting in the sand.
So he's got his suit. So only slow things can penetrate the suit? So
yes.
Like a knife?
Yeah, a knife, but if wielded correctly.
A dumbbell pole.
Oh, yes. Yes, I forgot.
Maybe him and buff Steve Jobs start swinging at each other.
I think that's a fair matchup, yeah. So Steve Jobs just starts swinging, Duke Atreides sort of puts in his combat training to sort of dodge fairly effortlessly. Maybe Nathan gets the upper hand because he's quite sneaky in Ex Machina. So maybe he pulls a trick on him.
Yeah, he is, yeah.
And briefly gets the upper hand, but he just can't get it through the shield because he's just swinging. And the trick is you've got to push it slowly. So maybe he can't penetrate the shield. And then Leto Atreides just cuts his head off, stabs him, just kills him.
I'm willing to believe that. I have another idea. So he beheads him, kills him. There's been a lot of face and head removing so far.
It's very brutal.
Atreides is standing over buff Steve Jobs' corpse, watching him. And that's when he gets a slow burning sensation in his back. Ooh. And then out the front of his chest comes a red lightsaber.
Oh!
Atreides falls to his knees, and Palpatine leans in and just whispers in his ears, "I am all the sci-fi franchises." And does a spin move and beheads Atreides.
Damn. Or
maybe he puts him in a bath.
If he's getting up close to him after stabbing him, can Duke Atreides then use the poison tooth? Blast that poison cloud into Palpatine's face?
I suppose he could. I would say that the sort of in the film doesn't everyone escape it.
No,
doesn't the main Palpatine-esque character escape it?
Most of the room.
Guy.
So what happens? Most of the room is killed, but Baron Harkonnen, who's the main fat guy, as you were talking about, he survives because he has his own personal shield, which he switches on a few seconds too late, so he gets a bit of the blast, but he manages to shield himself from most of it.
Okay.
Now Palpatine does not have said shield.
Okay. Okay. So he poisons Palpatine.
Yeah.
And I've got I do have another thing. So, as Palpatine is sort of dying out, because we have had a character who's already been poisoned once. I think Apocalypse comes over, kneels by the dying Palpatine.
Oh, but hang on, I'm actually making a mistake here. You're giving it a reason to why Palpatine survives. He just has to go off screen and then come back later on.
Okay. So Palpatine dies for now. Let's say.
Yeah. So Gomez Addams.
Yeah.
He's been reveling in all this glorious, horrible gore, I reckon. He loves a bit of gore and
Oh yeah, he's
Check
loving
that.
it. He's picked up the face and the head, and he's like doing like
Oh my
puppet. He's doing like
God.
a Punch and Judy thing.
Oh my
in the
God.
head. Spider-Man sees this and is just like vomiting in his like helmet.
You're a monster. Maybe he goes after Gomez Addams next then. Or
Yeah.
maybe, is this like a 2-on-1 where Spider-Man goes for him because he's repulsed? Moon Knight sees he's picked up his face, which was his sort of prize and, a piece of his identity earlier
I
on,
see.
and like tries to reclaim it. So he also goes to Gomez
Okay.
Addams. So it's like a 2-on-1.
I think 2-on-1's generous. I feel it's just like a brutal massacre. Gomez Addams versus Spider-Man 2099 and Moon Knight.
He could pull out his sword. Maybe he deflects a few of the crescent moons from Moon Knight, cuts a few of Spidey's webs because he's so good with the sword and being agile.
He can try, but I feel it ends with, him being in between Spider-Man and Moon Knight.
Yeah,
And they're both just like crushing his head.
yeah.
Actually, maybe that's a bit too ruthless for Spider-Man. I've just decided to be really gory.
Maybe-
Or like Moon Knight. Spider-Man's about to like give him like the final blow to Gomez Addams, and there's just a tap on Gomez's shoulder, and he turns around, and it's Moon Knight, and Moon Knight just takes the mask back, and then
Yes.
Gomez Addams turns back to Spider-Man, who just bangs him in the face, and it's enough. Spider punch to the face.
Yeah.
Brutal.
He doesn't hold back with his strength, just takes his head off with a single punch.
This is when Apocalypse approaches Spider-Man and gives him a big speech. He's impressed by the power he's possessed.
Yeah. He's like,
So,
you're strong, my
Apocalypse.
child, but you could be stronger.
And he also turns to Moon Knight and he's like, "See, I got you your mask back. If you follow me, okay." So Apocalypse has sort of just recruited Moon Knight and Spider-Man.
I think Spider-Man wouldn't fall to the recruitment because he sort of resisted being like someone's lackey in the past. So I think
Okay.
maybe he's like too moral to be a lackey of Apocalypse and instead tries to
Okay.
fight him.
Well, that's only going to end one way.
Wow, yeah.
With all of them turning on Apocalypse. Whoa, what?
Whoa! When you say all of them, there's like, how many people left? 2, 3? So you've got...
Dan, you're forgetting.
Oh, of course.
Somehow.
Palpatine has returned.
Palpatine has returned.
Does he get the Magneto turn? Does he get the sort of heroic...
Yeah.
So like Moon Knight's chucking discs.
He forces two like metal barriers in the shape of an X in front of Apocalypse,
Yes!
and then Moon Knight. Well, he doesn't slit his throat because that doesn't work. How can they kill it? Are they able to kill him somehow?
So Moon Knight starts like chucking his discs at Apocalypse because he's like, no, I don't work for you. I don't work.
Apocalypse does dodge them. Apocalypse is going to be hard to kill.
Yeah, so
But
Apocalypse.
it's essentially a 3-on-1.
Yeah, he can like freeze the discs in midair or something because he does that as well. Spider-Man 2099 tries to get up close, but he's just like thrown backwards with Apocalypse's also force powers. Palpatine just blasts him with all his lightning. His unlimited power. Unlimited power!
Yes.
Just blasting it. Now, this is sort of Apocalypse is stopping this as well, but it's putting quite a strain on him having to stop all that lightning. Now, there's no one else left. It's just down to these three taking on Apocalypse.
Yeah. So they're just beating the shit out of him, using all their powers, unlimited power,
Yeah.
force choking, if he can do that, I'm not sure he can. He's throwing his lightsaber at him. Moon Knight is throwing his crescent moon. Spider-Man is clawing at him, venomizing him.
Yep.
Are they able to kill him?
What state is the crashed X-Wing in? I'm wondering if, like, Palpatine could, like, force fire a torpedo or something.
Probably. With the Force, yeah, probably.
So maybe, like, the burning wreckage has, like, one torpedo left to fire. So it can't just be, like, a full functioning X-Wing.
Or maybe he, like, forces the X-Ring into, like, loads of bits of shrapnel and just, like, throws them towards...
Oh, okay, so he's fully
If that
getting
would work.
Magneto.
Well, can he? He can.
Okay, so he's doing that. And yeah, so they're all just shooting Apocalypse real good. Can they overwhelm him though? I don't know. Now, see, I don't want to seem biased because there is something that could happen here, but it could become biased.
Wait.
Yeah,
Does Spider-Man have telepathy?
he does. Low
Doesn't
level
Apocalypse
telepathy.
get killed with telepathy?
it's not like Jean Grey powers, but maybe he can like sort of get inside his head a little bit and like
back him up.
Yeah, just sort of throw him off his game. Oh, maybe he could, if Moon Knight lets him in, maybe he could form a bridge with Moon Knight. So Apocalypse has got all this sort of horrible mental illness, sort of like also affecting his capacity.
This is such a stretch of lore. But Palpatine can also manipulate and go into people's mind. Doesn't he like manipulate people using like... he goes into their subconscious and rise. I swear they say something.
He normally uses like just pure on like words and like, perception.
But in Rise of Skywalker, I think they say something bullshit like you've been whispering from the.
Oh yeah, no, he does do that, doesn't he? Oh, I forgot that was the thing.
So are they all in Apocalypse's mind, beating the shit out of him as well?
Oh, I think so. Yeah, they're weakening him, so like his real world defenses go down, and then yeah.
And also, they can create a world, so they can create a world where, like, there's loads of X-Wing, all the X-Wings that Palpatine has sort of lightninged, and they can go, "You're in my house now, bitch."
He grows really big, he's like trying to swap the X-Wings out of the sky, but, like, you know, he's too distracted. It's a war on too many fronts.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think
Apocalypse gets outdone.
I think so. It's a bit of a stretch, I must say, but I think...
It is a big stretch of logic. But it's either that or Apocalypse just wins, and I don't particularly like the... I'll be honest. I don't particularly like the portrayal of Apocalypse.
Fair enough.
So, he can go in the bin.
He may have been our best chance at stopping Lucy, but...
Fuck it. I know we try not to be biased, and I know I've said about not being biased... But fuck it.
It's just about plausible. They're using the logic of somehow Palpatine has returned to somehow they have mentally and physically attacked Apocalypse. And yeah, eventually he succumbs, the lightning disintegrates him, he's all blown away and evaporated by the lightning, leaving us with Palpatine, Spider-Man and Moon Knight.
Now I feel... to at least brag about his ferocity and how his brutal intention, I think Moon Knight is going to kill Palpatine in front of Spider-Man. Brutally stabbing him through the chest with his crescent moon, and Palpatine is going to fall down dead.
Yeah.
Leaving a rematch between Moon Knight and Spider-Man. Oh, we've never really had a rematch.
Ooh.
That's quite fun.
No. So yeah, so Palpatine's like exhausted from all that lightning already. So yeah, that's how Moon Knight gets the edge. Like you say, he stabs him through the chest, cuts his throat, kills him, and he's really dead this time. He's until they make another sequel where Palpatine returns, he's really dead.
So Spider-Man versus Moon Knight.
The rematch. Now Moon Knight's learned from his mistake, so he's ready. 2099 sort of knows the deal. So, okay.
How do you think this goes? You know the characters more than I do.
I do think Spider-Man 2099 has just a pure physical edge on Moon Knight. Just he's stronger, he's got better senses. It all depends on if Khonshu helps Moon Knight, but we can't allow that to be a specific thing. It's got to be ambiguous. So, you know, maybe it's the adrenaline, maybe it's Khonshu, but Moon Knight has his sort of heightened strength where he can lift like 2 tons and shit. So he's better than a normal person, but he's not as good as Spider-Man.
They fight, they climb up the pyramids trying to get like the height advantage, the high ground.
Yeah.
Something Palpatine was terrified to do. But they're fighting on the pyramids.
Yeah, Moon Knight grapples his way up, Spider-Man follows
blow,
him.
throwing Crescent Moon. Spider-Man's dodging them, he's webbing him in the face, but he's pulling it away, raged.
Yeah, they both glide between the pyramids, because they can both glide between pyramids, so you get a real cinematic thing going on.
Drop kicking each other.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll take your word for it, and Spider-Man 2099 kills Moon Knight.
Yeah. I think maybe we go full graphic with this to finish it off, where like they're tussling, and again Moon Knight's raw rage maybe slightly gets the edge, but he's not quite learnt his mistake because again the heat of the battle has taken over him, and whilst he's sort of getting in close to Spider-Man's 2099's face, trying to like take off his face, maybe 2099 gets his poison fangs and sinks them into Moon Knight's throat.
Nice.
Yeah.
Brutal. And he has to become violent in order to get that final win.
Yeah, he has to lose himself to win. And an honourable defeat by Moon Knight, or defeat for Moon Knight, but he falls. Our victor is Spider-Man 2099.
Now, Dan, I must remind you,
Yes.
somehow,
No!
Palpatine has returned.
This time, maybe he returns as the emaciated
Nothing can
corpse
be done.
from the start of the film.
It's him. It's all Palpatine. He's not changed.
For fuck's sake!
It makes no sense, Dan. It's just somehow he's returned.
Oh, God.
And I feel we've sort of got like a Doctor Strange Dormammu thing. Where it's just Palpatine constantly returning.
Spider-Man, I've come to
For
bargain.
no reason.
Spider-Man, I've come to bargain.
I don't know. We can take. I mean, I guess it's your Oscar Isaac. So I'll let you have the final say. Who do we want in the final battle? Do we want another Spider-Man or essentially immortal Palpatine?
Well, I have a potential other route for Palpatine and past wildcards to make it into the Champion of Champions. So, maybe so he does come back again, but given this is his second resurrection, he's like the emaciated sort of corpse from the start of Rise of Skywalker, where he's blind.
No, Dan. No,
and he's got no fingers.
Somehow he returns.
This is how he returned in the first place. He's blind. He's got like no
he
fingers.
just somehow returns.
Spider-Man 2099 fucking just pushes the top off the pyramid. This giant, pointy, sharp object just lands on the weakened, half-dead Palpatine, crushing him. And before he can return again, 2099 is like, fuck this. He switches on that time travel bracelet from Into the Spider-Verse and just jumps out of there. He's like, fuck this, I'm out of here. And just leaves.
Who wins? Just Palpatine can return.
2099 wins, but somehow Palpatine will return. So 2099 has won. It's been,
Yes.
a strange one, an interesting finale to wrap up.
Battle of huge bias.
Yes.
Crazy powers. Somehow many returns until he was stoned. But yeah, Spider-Man 2099 is in the Champion of Champions with Spider-Man, which is going to be an interesting one.
It's been an interesting
powers.
It's been an interesting matchup. I feel for my boy Moon Knight. I wish but he did well. He got to the last two. Arguably three, depending on how we think about Palpatine popping up all the time.
Palpatine came second. He returned. Somehow.
Technically, he did. But yeah, Moon Knight. Check out Moon Knight. It'll be good. Interesting character. Some good representation for mental health too, which is nice. Hopefully they do DID in the non-problematic way. That's this week. I have the results of the poll from last week, which was Will Smith. So spoilers for that if you haven't heard it. Our final four were Agent J, the Genie, Dr. Robert Neville's dog, and Deadshot. The winner of the poll is Dr. Robert Neville's dog. So there we go.
Oh, of course.
People love dogs.
Damn it.
They're quite right to as well.
And that's why we keep killing them. Smash the system.
I think the dog's with us, isn't it, still? We adopted the dog by the end of that.
I think so.
The mind-wiped dog's now ours. But there we go. Spider-Man 2099 is our winner this week. Do you agree? I wouldn't blame you if you didn't. There was a bunch of shithousery.
I think it's safe to say that the shithousery levels were high.
Yeah. But there we have it. Apocalypse. He got shot real good, so he died, and that's how it be. Our Twitter is @jazz_lasagna. Give us a follow. I'll put up a poll on Monday, like always, so you can vote on this week's shenanigans. Email us in. What is the email, Max?
jazzlasagna@gmail.com.
Lovely. And next week, we will have our Champion of Champions, the end of Series 1 of Fightography. So join us there, I hope. It's going to be an exciting bout. I'm excited for it, to revisit our former champions.
It'll be good. It'll be good.
It's basically our Oscars, our award season.
Essentially, yeah. It's our Oscars.
Yeah.
Which character wins in a fight to the death? Which ultimate character will win in a fight to the death? Find out next week on Jazz Lasagna's Fightography.
I have been Dan.
I have been Max.
Thank you for listening, and see you for the finale. Ooh. You get the sign-off, Max.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to think of something interesting. Somehow, Palpatine will root.
Oh, the Marvel on credit style. I love it.
Nick Fury, your ass.